Y'all, like, what the is this shit? What is happening? How y'all living? Are y'all good? Are y'all? Hi, my name is Jasmine. I really wanted to do like a sit down video style thing today. So I'm a creative coach. I help creatives embody their gifts, get out of their own way, and do the damn thing. Okay? My creative journey and life started when I was like 7 years old. My first short story that I ever published was when I was 9 years old. I was really into Nancy Drew when I was a kid, and I wrote a cute little mystery story. It was called The Chalk Thief. Anyway, got published. I have loved reading and books and literature. I love that shit. And then I went all the way to college and studied writing and English. Put a lot of pressure on myself to perform in writing specifically because I've dedicated like a decade plus to that craft, to that art form. I often like say like writing is like my first love. I've been journaling at a young age. I probably have like 4 at this point. Writing will always be like my first love, the first place I come to. And having a lot of problems at a young age, it definitely put a lot of pressure at my early mid 20s to like produce a book. In 2020, I lost everything. I was hustling, like waitressing on the side, trying to get interviews to get into my field at that point. I was still in my early 20s, maybe 3-4 years outside of college, trying to move into a field of marketing because I thought that was the best blend of my writing skills into a job market. Marketing is a bit of storytelling, so I felt like that was the best path for me. And the world collapsed, as we all know. So I didn't have anything. I didn't have savings. I was still like in the grind, and I just felt like I was so close filling out like over maybe 200 applications during that time, and like taking the train and then the bus and then a taxi to get to the job location of interviews, just to have a shot at perhaps having a job. And then I made a really hard decision. I just moved to that city and I was living there for 9 months, and it was like a beautiful time because I just left a really bad relationship and I was starting fresh and anew. Very eat, pray, love going on there. And I was so excited to like start this new life, even though I was like, not exactly where I wanted to be. That's totally fine. It just felt like the start of something, and then COVID completely destroyed what that could have been. And then I had to make a really tough call because I had just moved. I felt like the community that I was getting really close to completely collapsed. The way the structural safety of the city was completely in disarray during COVID. And that's just like another thing. Like, I feel like depending on where you live geographically during the pandemic, ultimately shaped your entire experience. I guess personally it frustrates me when there's people in the suburbs or rural areas who feel like it wasn't that big of a deal. I'm just kind of like, yeah, I mean, structurally it didn't matter. So structure of our society was like literally collapsing during that time. Obviously it created a large uptick in mental health issues. I was really close with someone who I started to feel like was like a sister to me at that time. And we were getting really close. They were like my neighbor at that time when I first met them, and we were getting close during that time. But then when COVID happened, so it started becoming like incoherent and like not making a lot of sense, and just watching them kind of literally lose their mind. It was really, anyway, I'm sorry. It was just such a heartbreaking period just to get really close to someone and then you're watching them, become mentally unstable. It just started becoming increasingly like unsafe. They were threatening everyone, and they started to not trust us anymore. And it just, unfortunately, it was just like a situation where it's like, I'm not safe here anymore, and like I don't know where else to go except back home. So I moved back And that was the start of a very intense transformational journey. I came across a life coach for the very first time, and it was someone I already knew 10 years ago prior. We used to do sales together in something a while ago, and it seemed like she was taking a new turn in her own career and doing coaching, talking a lot about feeling stuck and frustrated in life and feeling like you can't get to where you want to be. And that's exactly where I was. I was like, oh my God, I can't move forward in my life. Everything is in shambles. I'm living with my grandparents. Not that there's any shame with living with your family. This is not what this is about. I don't care if you live with your family. It's okay to live with your family. It's okay to start over. I just was living on my own and pretty independent for 6 years prior to that. So it was just a shot to my ego to have to start all over or realize that okay, I need to do things differently. I'm the way I've been doing them hasn't been working or landed me where I wanted to be. It kind of was a real moment of coming to face with some of my own choices. And also just the timing of it all. It just I was still pretty young. I still am young, but I was pretty young when that happened, and I just feel like it just was just an unfortunate timing. I remember coming across that life coach, and she literally changed my entire life by changing the way that I think and examining my beliefs, my thoughts, and my actions. I'm gonna stand on that to the day that I die, because once you start doing that work, your life literally will change. I remember being so cynical, so critical, so depressed, and very conscious. And I think that's a very hard space to be in when you are someone who's super conscious and educated of the social political landscape that we live in. And it can be incredibly isolating because there are so many people who aren't that, I want to say educated, but for whatever reason, saying educated like that has such a negative connotation. I don't know. I'm someone who hates hierarchies. Please miss me with the hierarchies. And our society is just kind of obsessed with that, right? How much money you make, how hot your partner is, the luxury item. My phone died, and I'm not getting caught up on the editing about it because I just want to talk to y'all. So I was saying something about social hierarchies. Our society is so obsessed with different ways to feel above other people life, but I just get the sense that there's always just this notion of a way to feel better than somebody, how much money you make, or that you can afford luxury items or not. And I also feel the self-development space kind of panders to this in this really weird way, where it's if you're not chasing those things, then that has to mean something negative about you. I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I do think there's some things that I just don't like the language around it. Some judging or rating your worth by the external world, when truly nothing outside of you actually ever determines your worth. This was such a hard, intangible concept for me to get at the root at, because I have had a lot of trauma in my life, but it is so hard to understand that your worth is unshakable and is not attached to anything external. That's a really hard thing to grapple with when so much of your external experiences has reflected the opposite of that message. And hire that coach, I just remember feeling so anxious. I remember thinking it was a scam. I remember feeling the girl was asking for a lot of money. I never spend this much money on anything. And I would do it again. Investing in yourself, whether that's knowledge, health, or fitness. I would not be in this apartment right now had I not gotten coaching. I would not have started my own business of consulting other creatives had I not got coached myself. I've gone through like many stages of shifting my own beliefs. I grew up very Christian, Pentecostal, church 3-4 times a week, wearing skirts, only gospel music. Don't you listen to no secular music. Z100 was like the only way I could actually like listen to anything that like my peers were listening to at the time. And I've fallen away from religion in that sense, because of some stuff that also happened in the church that was really awful and traumatic as well. And but when I made the decision to actually become a coach, that process of me getting coached and unraveling all of the beliefs, all the guck, all the like hatred, and all the stuff that I internalized because of what happened to me. And there's nothing like wrong with that. Like, I feel like self-development spaces make it seem like just kind of like move towards shame, use like weird, like it's like shame tactics, like, you know, you gotta, you know, or you're the reason. And I like feel like if you're someone with CPTSD, that could trigger your shame spiral and actually like hold you back from progress, because there's so many things that aren't your fault. Like, there's so many things that just aren't your fault. It's not your fault that you had low self-esteem. It's not your fault that you were abused. It's not your fault that you had all this shitty stuff happen to you. And I think there's a real like hard space when you realize like you are maybe not at fault, but it's your responsibility. Coaching really helps me unravel how you respond to things is where your power lies. And in my own personal journey with that, like when I started shifting from focusing on the external to moving it to the internal, it started to like decrease how often the external like shakes me. Not saying that I don't get stressed or that things don't bother me or that I don't get sad or I don't get angry or that shit doesn't happen. It's just more so I'm more quick to find my power in how I'm going to show up, how I will like respond to something versus like letting the thing make a huge mark on my self inner worth. And that's where true power lies. And I kind of wanted to give that space to other people because I know there's so many other people who doubt themselves, who struggle with their own confidence, who feel like things are hopeless, because the world is a motherfucker and they don't give a shit about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, life can be really, really challenging. And if you're watching this, I hope you just stay encouraged. But even more than this, staying encouraged, because I just feel like that's just so generic to say. Like, real change has never happened until I embraced the ugliest, darkest parts of myself. So challenging when you realize you're the one who is going to be able to give that to you. And it's a muscle. It's hard to practice that. It's challenging because if you didn't have a healthy example of that, you're just going off of a bad template. Again, my name is Jasmine, and I will talk to y'all next time.